Well, hello, wonderful students of Serrano High School. It's your favorite choir teacher again, Mr. Dolan, and I'm here to talk to you today about what it means to breathe for singing. Now, our summary sentence goes as follows. One must inhale with the side ribs as well as the diaphragm, slow down the rate of exhalation by using intercostal and abdominal muscles, use the concept of appoggio breathing so that the voice may lean on the breath. Now, of course, that is a lot of lofty words and lofty phrases, so we are going to dive into what that means in a nuanced and intelligent way. Before we dive into exactly the processes of how to sing, we should talk about some definition words. And the first one that I want to talk about is the diaphragm. And the diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscular partition separating the thorax from the abdomen muscles. So in other words, the diaphragm is a dome-shaped under the lungs, and the way it works is that when we breathe in, it drops and it creates a vacuum. And when we breathe out, it slowly rises, which assists in pushing out the air or expelling the air. Another way to think about the diaphragm is that I've heard it said that it separates our vitals from our vitals, meaning it separates our vital organs, think about like our heart, our lungs, from our vitals, which would mean maybe non-vital organs like small intestine, stomach, etc. The last thing that I want to say about the diaphragm is that we can feel it literally engage when we do the exercise ha, ha, ha. So on a front view, watch my diaphragm engage, or kind of like my lower stomach abdominal area, when I go ha, ha, ha. And now look at it from a side view. Ha, ha, ha. The next vocab word that I want to talk about are the intercostal muscles. And all you really need to know right here and right now is that they are the muscles attached to the rib cage. They are the muscles that we eat when we eat ribs, so think about that for a moment. And they expand and contract the thorax in a 360-degree motion. The next word that I want to talk about is inspiration. And typically, we know the word inspiration when one is motivated to create something beautiful, maybe a piece of art. We can be maybe even inspired to clean our room or something of the like. But for the purposes of here and now, when I'm saying the word inspiration, I am simply meaning to breathe in. Once again, inspiration, simply to breathe in. And this word comes from the Italian root word spirare, which means literally to breathe. And of course, like so much of the English language, you take a word, it melds, it transforms over the century, and we have the word we know today. The next word that I want to talk about is the word appoggio. And this is an Italian word, to the best of my knowledge, simply means to suspend. And we reach a state of appoggio when we are in our correct posture, when we are properly elevated, so that the lungs have enough opening and enough support to be able to breathe in and control air in a manner that is beneficial for singers. Now, the first thing you might be thinking is, Mr. Dolan, I've been breathing all my life. I got this. Well, friends, let me assure you, this isn't the normal breathing. And quite frankly, normal breathing or day-to-day breathing does not mean the physical demands for singing. Rather, we need to create a more irregular, almost an unnatural type of breathing to accommodate for both our short and long phrases. Additionally, to breathe well, that means that the singer's vocal folds need a slow, steady, well-coordinated stream of air that is well-regulated, responsive, and controlled. When we reach this well-controlled, well-regulated type of breath, that is when we hit a state of what we call dynamic equilibrium. And that is ultimately the goal. And of course, we get that through our posture, and we get that through some of the techniques that follow. Now, I briefly want to talk about appoggio once again, because appoggio, meaning that point of inspiration, we want to cling to this point of inspiration, meaning that we don't want to collapse our body. Of course, we don't want to hyperextend or hypertense. At the same time, we want to remain in tonus with our elbows open and kind of like in a 360 motion, our chest comfortably high. And once again, the reason is that this promotes inspiration, or good posture promotes good inspiration. Of course, we want to avoid the high chest. So in other words, when we run and after we run a mile and we might be really winded or really tired, we can see ourselves go. Rather, we want to keep that chest elevated whether we're breathing in or breathing out. Now, once again, we want our chest comfortably raised. So in other words, the mid-torso is really the only area that's moving. Now, let's talk about exhalation. And when we exhale, we still want to maintain that appoggio stance. So in other words, we want to avoid collapsing our body at all costs. And this is going to help us control the release of airflow so that we're neither too fast but certainly not too slow. And of course, this airflow varies with pitch, phrase, timbre, etc., but namely when we want to keep that noble stance. The old Italian masters used to say, don't blow the candle out, don't even let it flicker when exhaling, and that is the nature, that is the quality that we want to aim for. Well, congratulations. I hope that you are a little bit more enlightened, a little bit more knowledgeable. Some final thoughts that I want to say aloud is that one, unfortunately, we cannot feel the diaphragm. We only feel the muscles and the organs moving around it. So when I think about working with the diaphragm, I oftentimes think about that lower abdominal muscle being engaged, and that helps me out so much. I would say that the single most important point is to maintain that posture or maintain that sense of appoggio suspension. If you do that, you will breathe well, friends. And if you need to, refer back to that posture video. My favorite one is that when we raise our hands above our head and then drop them while keeping that chest comfortably elevated. Friends, that helps me out so much. And of course, and almost the most important thing, explore what works for you. I know that I've had advice time and time again over the years, but it's not until I start engaging it and until I start practicing it and still I start making it my own that I really find success in some of these concepts and techniques. Thanks, everyone.